You know, there are loads of little tricks and habits and ways of thinking that you can apply to your photography right now that will help you to become a better photographer more quickly. They are things that I've learned over the last 20 years, and they all fit into that bracket once you do know of them, of I wish I knew that earlier. And so I've distilled a huge list down to just a couple of things that I think will really help you to become better photographers. Things that you can go out right now and try for yourself. My name's Tony Eveling, and like I say, I've been a photographer for 20 years or so, and my images have been licensed all over the world in newspapers and magazines, as well as advertising agencies. Plus, I've sold thousands of fine art prints of my work during that time. And stick around to the end, and I'll show you how to make your photos really pop, and how to become the kind of photographer who's able to consistently create great shots almost effortlessly. What I'm about to say might sound a bit controversial, and that is deliberate, because I want your attention. So here goes. Light is overrated in photography. And now I do mean that literally, but it does need a bit of explaining. So here goes. Think about light as a component of composition, and not the thing that controls composition. Light shouldn't decide whether you take a photo or not. Composition should. So don't be controlled by the light, just make sure that you control the light through your composition. So every object that you see only exists visually because it reflects light. The ground, the trees, and all those conventional objects, but also the sky, it's reflecting light. And each of those things is an object that you can place, position or balance within your composition. And that's why composition sits right at the top of the hierarchy of that picture making process. And the real point that I'm building up to here is that once you understand that, you start building your compositions to adapt to the light rather than being limited by that light just because it didn't perform as you wanted it to, or the colours are more dull than you expected. So in those cases, you need to adapt your composition to suit those lighting conditions in order to get a compelling photo. So you're no longer chasing the light. You're using composition to control how that light works for you. So here's another statement that many people quote or talk about, including about their own photography. So many beginners shoot in harsh midday sun or flat overcast sky because they don't understand light, and they come back and wonder why their photographs are looking a little bit rubbish. Washed out or whatever. And it implies that the best photos are had in dawn or dusk light, or something that is mysteriously described as perfect light, whatever that means. And all you actually need to do is, you just need to control the light by adjusting your composition. And then you'll be able to take compelling and visually appealing photographs in any light situation, in any location, at any time, and of anything. Midday, dawn, dusk, cloudy, whatever. So maybe going back to how I started this, it might not be that the light is overrated, but more like light is overemphasized and a little bit obsessed over. But by adapting your composition to suit the unique light conditions of any one scene in any one time, you will massively increase the photo opportunities that will open up to you. You will then take a much greater variety of photos, which will massively accelerate your progress as a photographer. And putting composition before light and adapting your composition to suit the light rather than being dictated to by light is just a more creative way at looking at all of this. And another little quirky thing, I suppose, that I think goes under the radar with beginners, think about your backgrounds and how they interact with elements in your foreground. You've really got to keep an eye on what's happening behind your subject. Make sure that there's nothing too distracting and consciously look for ways to simplify the scene wherever you can. The background is just as important as the subject. A bad background can completely ruin a photo, and no camera settings or fancy gear is going to save it, and post-processing can only go so far. And this is something that really only you can work out when you are out there in that picture making moment. So if you can't move the elements in your frame, like a tree against a mountain, then move yourself. Change your physical position in the landscape until the background works for your composition, not against it. So backgrounds should complement your subject and the other elements in the frame. They should be adding context to help tell the story of the photo. A good background doesn't just sit there, it supports the narrative of the image. It provides context when you get that inspired moment, that spark that tells you there's a photo there. That's the time to pay close attention to your background and make sure that it's not cluttered. So move around, look for clean space behind your subject, avoid lines, trees or objects that cut through any foreground elements, and give your subject room to breathe. And then finally, remember your aperture. A wide aperture will blur the background, whilst a smaller aperture keeps more in focus. And use that deliberately depending on the story you're trying to tell. Before we jump into the next tip, don't forget to hit subscribe, give the video a like and drop a comment to let me know what you think so far. And if you want to go deeper, then just scan this QR code to join my newsletter. Plus, check out the links below for my complete composition course. It includes assignments, personal feedback and a private space where you can connect with me and other photographers. So just check that out in the description below. And one final thing that I want to talk about, and it's really a big one, and that's gear. If you're a YouTuber and teach photography and you want 10 times or even 100 times more views than normal, then just make a video about the latest $2,000 Sony lens, because those videos always blow up because everybody is obsessed with gear. People think that buying new gear will somehow make them a better photographer. But here's the truth, it won't. It just won't. The gear that you have has nothing to do with how good you are at photography. Photography is about engaging with your environment, really connecting with the place that you're in, and having those inspired moments that trigger the urge to take a photo. And once you've had that moment of inspiration, as I call it, it's all about how you then compose the image. And those two things, the moment of inspiration and the composition, that is what makes a photo. The camera itself, well, that's just a tool. Hardware doesn't make you a better photographer, and that's one of the hardest lessons for beginners to learn, because it's easy to believe that new gear will give you a shortcut to better photos, but it doesn't. What you actually need is engagement. You need to want to be there. You need to really notice what's out there in front of you and to feel inspired by it. That's what leads to great photos, not what's in your camera bag. So moving on from those tips, if you want your photos to instantly look more professional and you want to understand the secret behind creating great compositions every single time, then click this video right here. It's my complete breakdown of everything you need to know about composition in a very short video, and it has the potential to change the way that you take photos forever.